Usually when we talk about a broken laptop or, a software glitch at work, there's this shared universal groan.
Oh, absolutely. It's like going to the DMV.
Right. You submit an IT ticket, it vanishes into the void, and you just wait.
Yeah, we've basically accepted that friction as the inevitable cost of doing business.
Exactly. But suddenly, the introduction of autonomous AI agents is blowing that black box wide open. I mean, the friction could disappear entirely.
It really could. But the invisible mechanisms taking over that work, they're actually sparking a massive ideological war behind the scenes.
Which brings us to the mission of today's deep dive. We are unpacking an escalating corporate rivalry that looks, on the surface, like a standard turf war between two software giants.
Right. But if you look closely, it is actually a battle for the fundamental architecture of how work will get done inside your company over the next decade.
And to guide you through this, we have a really fascinating stack of sources today. We're pulling from a deeply reported piece in the Register.
Yeah. That piece details the very public and, frankly, pretty petty feud between Salesforce and ServiceNow.
So petty. But to balance out those headlines, we're cross-referencing that reporting with internal documentation from ServiceNow.
Which is great because that explains the actual bare metal mechanics of their new AI platform capabilities.
It's a rare moment where CEO drama actually gives us a highly technical, crystal clear window into the future of enterprise infrastructure.
I completely agree. We are looking at a fundamental disagreement on how artificial intelligence should, be allowed to operate inside an organization.
Okay, let's unpack this. The drama itself is like the perfect entry point.
Oh, it really is. If you are managing an enterprise network right now, you are watching this unfold in real time.
Totally. So the inciting incident here was Salesforce CEO Marc Benioff on a recent earnings call. Instead of sticking to standard financial projections, he starts openly gloating.
Yeah, he just goes right for it.
He does. He name drops 5 specific customers.
Yeah.
Companies like Sunrun, Cornerstone, and CoolSys. And he boasts that they are leaving what he called the purgatory of ServiceNow.
The purgatory.
Leaving that for Salesforce's new Agentforce IT service.
I mean, purgatory is an incredibly aggressive term for a quarterly earnings call.
Seriously?
But understanding the scale discrepancy between these two companies is what makes this feud so fascinating.
Oh, the numbers are wild.
Right. So Salesforce's new Agentforce product is essentially brand new. At the time of that call, it had, about 200 total signups?
Yeah, about 200, which represents roughly 0.1% of Salesforce's massive total customer base.
That's practically a rounding error. And contrast that with ServiceNow.
Right.
They have 8,600 IT service management, or ITSM, customers. They control 40% of the entire market.
Wow.
Yeah. According to the IDC data in our sources, ServiceNow holds 6 times the market share of their next 2 closest competitors combined.
Companies like BMC Helix and Atlassian, right?
Exactly. They are the undisputed heavyweight champion of the IT help desk.
Which is why ServiceNow CEO Bill McDermott did not take the insult lightly.
Not at all.
He fired back a few days later at a technology conference, explicitly calling Benioff's comments unhinged.
Unhinged. Love the vocabulary here. But more importantly, he brought specific receipts to counter the narrative.
Yes, he did. He clarified that 4 of the 5 companies Benioff gloated about are, in fact, still ServiceNow customers.
And the one customer they actually lost. The sources note it represented a mere $42,000 hit.
Okay, that $42,000 number is the key to understanding the sheer bravado of Salesforce's attack.
Definitely.
I mean, ServiceNow reported $13.2 billion in top-line revenue last year.
Yeah, so losing a $42,000 contract is mathematically invisible to them.
It is. Yet the leadership at both companies is treating this like an existential threat.
Which is why
I'm trying to wrap my head around why a company with 40% market share and $13 billion in revenue even cares about a competitor with 200 users.
Yeah.
Like, why legitimize the attack by responding?
Well, there is a twist in the reporting that makes this incredibly personal.
Oh, right. The executive leading this new AI charge at Salesforce.
Exactly. Mudhu Sudhakar. He is the senior VP of their Agentforce IT service right now. But previously...
He was a senior VP at ServiceNow.
Yep. He managed 1,000 employees there under their legendary former CEO, Frank Slootman.
So he knows their architecture from the inside out.
Oh, he understands exactly where the bodies are buried, so to speak. And Sudhakar is now publicly claiming that the legacy IT service management market hasn't innovated in 25 years.
Wow.
He is actively framing his former employer as a dinosaur that is just too rigid to adapt to the era of generative AI.
It's like a scrappy new coffee shop opening up right across the street from a massive entrenched global coffee chain and just actively mocking their menu.
That's a great way to put it.
Except in this case, the scrappy newcomer is a multi-billion-dollar CRM empire with limitless resources. They are playing the role of the agile disruptor.
And that disruptor framing moves us from the drama into the actual technology. The CEO bickering is just, surface noise.
Right, it's just PR.
Exactly. The real story here is the clash of worldviews regarding how AI should manage complex IT workflows. Let's look at ServiceNow's fundamental philosophy first. They view themselves as an orchestrator.
An orchestrator. Yeah, Harsha Kumar, the CEO of a major ServiceNow partner called New Rocket, he emphasizes this point in the sources.
He does.
He points out that ServiceNow doesn't just hold data. They connect workflows across massive, disparate systems.
To understand what an orchestrator does, you have to look at the enterprise as a massive web of disconnected software.
Right, like different departments using different tools.
Exactly. You have Workday managing your HR data. You have SAP managing your enterprise resource planning and financials. You might even have Salesforce managing your customer data.
So where does ServiceNow fit into that?
ServiceNow sits underneath all of that as the plumbing. They route the actions between those systems. Bill McDermott has a quote in the material that perfectly summarizes this. He says, "While AI thinks, workflow acts."
While AI thinks, workflow acts.
Okay, let's break down the mechanics of what that actually means.
Yeah.
If an AI generates a text response, say a chatbot telling you how to reset a password, that's just thinking.
Right, it's just generating text.
But actually going into the Active Directory, verifying your identity, resetting the credentials, and updating the security logs, that requires acting on secure systems.
And ServiceNow is currently managing 85 billion of those actions or workflows in flight across the Fortune 2000.
85 billion, that is staggering.
It is. They view IT service management as something so structurally complex that they are actually trying to rebrand the entire category as service operations. They believe the back-end complexity is the whole point.
But then you have Salesforce's approach, which is just a complete 180-degree pivot.
Oh, completely. Charles Betts, a principal analyst at Forrester, frames Salesforce not as an orchestrator, but as a system of engagement.
System of engagement, right.
Salesforce's philosophy is all about meeting users where they already are. And where are employees spending their entire day? They're in Slack.
And Salesforce owns Slack. So their architectural argument is that the average employee does not care about your 85 billion complex back-end workflows.
I certainly don't.
Right. They don't want to log into a specialized portal. They just want to open a chat window in Slack, type, "fix my password," or "I need access to the design server" in plain English, and have an AI agent magically make the problem disappear.
Without ever formally generating a traditional IT ticket.
Exactly.
Okay, I have to pause here because as a user, Salesforce sounds completely right. Nobody actually likes filing IT tickets.
Nobody. It's the worst.
We hate the drop-down menus. We hate the priority queues. If I'm an enterprise decision maker, why shouldn't I just buy into the Salesforce model?
It's a fair question.
Right, like, why do I care about ServiceNow's complex orchestration plumbing if Salesforce's AI can just fix my employee's problem natively in the chat app they already have open?
Well, the appeal is undeniably huge because it removes all user friction. But if we dive into the mechanics of enterprise architecture, making things disappear seamlessly in Slack is terrifying from a systems management perspective.
Terrifying. How so?
Let's use a tangible example. Say an employee asks the Slack AI for access to a highly secure financial database.
Okay, and the AI wants to be helpful, so it just says, sure, granted.
Exactly. If the AI operates solely as a system of engagement without deep back-end orchestration, it might grant that access via an API call without checking the broader context.
Oh, I see.
It didn't check Workday to see if the employee's role actually authorizes that access. It didn't check SAP to see if the department has budget for the database license.
And it didn't update the IT asset management logs for the upcoming compliance audit.
Precisely. When autonomous AI starts making systemic changes across an enterprise, adjusting permissions, allocating licenses, modifying databases, things can break catastrophically if there aren't ironclad underlying rules.
Which brings us to the absolute core of this entire debate. AI governance.
Yeah.
We are moving from the philosophy of work into the literal architecture of control. It feels like the Wild West versus the Walled City.
Forrester's Charles Betts explains this collision of architectures brilliantly. He notes that Salesforce works backward from the user experience into IT.
Meaning they start with a shiny interface.
Right. They start with the beautiful, frictionless chat interface in Slack and try to figure out how to safely connect to the backend later.
And ServiceNow.
ServiceNow does the exact opposite. They start from the system of work, the rigid backend architecture, and build the user experience on top of that foundation.
And when you look at ServiceNow's internal documentation regarding their new AI platform, they lean incredibly heavily into this walled city concept.
They really do.
They introduce a massive architectural feature called the AI Control Tower.
The mechanics of this control tower are fascinating. Large language models, by their very nature, are probabilistic. They predict the next most likely word.
Right, they're guessing what comes next based on patterns.
Exactly. But a database is deterministic. It requires an exact, perfect command, or it throws an error, or worse, executes a disastrous change.
That makes sense.
You cannot have a probabilistic AI directly guessing commands in a deterministic database.
So how does the control tower actually bridge that gap?
For ServiceNow, they have 22 years of accumulated hard-coded logic representing how huge companies safely operate.
The guardrails.
Right. The control tower acts as an interceptor. When an employee asks the AI to do something, the AI interprets the intent. But the control tower forces that intent through ServiceNow's pre-existing, heavily audited workflow steps.
So the AI isn't just running loose.
Not at all. The LLM isn't allowed to invent a solution. It's only allowed to trigger a pre-approved, highly regulated, automated pathway. ServiceNow views poorly governed autonomy as an unacceptable enterprise risk.
And they outline how their autonomous workforce operates within these constraints. Their AI agents aren't just doing isolated one-off tasks in a chat window.
Right, it's way more structured than that.
The documentation notes, they are assigned to specific roles with full business context. They have strict permissions, comprehensive audit trails, and continuous monitoring.
All to ensure they don't hallucinate a command or do something unsafe at scale.
And because they trust those guardrails, ServiceNow claims their AI agents can actually resolve 90% of inbound tickets without any human intervention.
I mean, a 90% autonomous resolution rate is staggering. That is, assuming the enterprise has the time and resources to map out all those back-end workflows perfectly.
Which takes a lot of effort. But Madhu Sudhakar at Salesforce looks at that massive control architecture and basically says that is exactly why you are a dinosaur.
Oh, yeah. He argues that legacy systems like ServiceNow are so reliant on rigid, rules-based architecture that they are physically incapable of disrupting themselves with truly conversational, flexible, agentic AI.
It's a textbook example of the innovator's dilemma.
Perfectly said. Salesforce is betting that the underlying rules engine is obsolete. They are betting that their Agentforce AI reasoning engine is smart enough to figure out the right actions dynamically without needing 22 years of pre-coded workflows acting as a crutch.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like comparing two entirely different types of employees.
Okay, I like this.
Salesforce's AI is like a brilliant, fast-moving personal assistant. They are incredibly intuitive. They get things done instantly,
Yeah.
and they anticipate your needs.
Right.
But maybe, just occasionally, they bypass a security protocol or bend a rule to get the job done faster.
Just to push things through.
Exactly. ServiceNow's AI, on the other hand, is like a highly regulated corporate bank teller.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. They are going to double-check every single signature, verify your ID against 3 different databases, and ensure every federal regulation is met before they move a single dime.
Yeah, the personal assistant prioritizes reducing friction, while the bank teller prioritizes preventing disaster. Both are incredibly valuable, but they serve completely different masters.
So what does this all mean? Having laid out this engaging, fast-moving Salesforce model against the highly secure, heavily orchestrated ServiceNow model, what does this actually mean for you listening?
Let's get practical.
If an IT decision maker is prepping for a vendor meeting tomorrow and has to choose a path forward, how do they navigate this?
Well, synthesizing the sources provides a pretty clear framework based on a company's specific reality.
Okay.
If you are a massive Fortune 2000 enterprise, say a global bank, a defense contractor, or a major healthcare provider, you have deeply complex cross-departmental operations.
You have strict regulatory compliance.
Exactly. You need absolute walled city security guardrails. In that scenario, ServiceNow is the proven Goliath.
And there is a reason they have a 98% renewal rate. Their platform is immensely sticky. Once you build all your company's workflows into their plumbing, Ripping it out to switch vendors is an operational nightmare.
It really is. But the calculation changes entirely if you move down market.
How so?
If you are a mid-market organization, an SMB, or crucially, if your company is already living entirely inside the Salesforce ecosystem.
No, that makes sense. If your sales team is driving revenue through Salesforce CRM, your support team is handling clients via Service Cloud, and your entire internal communication structure is built on Slack.
Exactly. Then bolting on Agentforce presents a highly attractive, frictionless alternative.
Let's talk about the deployment speed, because this is where the vendor messaging gets incredibly aggressive.
It's highly contested.
Yeah. Snow Tempest, an analyst at IDC, points out that Salesforce has a huge advantage down market because they already have all the customer data. Salesforce boasts in the sources that its ITSM customers can go live in a speedy 45 to 50 days.
However, a ServiceNow consultant immediately countered that claim in the reporting, stating that they can install and run a new ServiceNow instance in 4 to 6 weeks.
Wait, I'm looking at this math and I'm honestly confused by the argument. 45 days is roughly 6 weeks.
Right.
They are aggressively claiming victory while essentially matching each other on speed. If deployment time is a complete wash, what actually moves the needle?
Right.
If you have to make a choice, what is the core factor?
The core factor isn't speed. It's a structural calculation of your company's risk tolerance versus your desire for immediate user friction reduction.
Okay, break that down.
You have to ask yourself, is my IT backend relatively straightforward? And is my top priority making the employee experience inside Slack as smooth as silk?
And if yes?
If yes, you lean towards Salesforce's engagement model. But if a single wrong permission change by an AI agent could violate hypercompliance or take down a global supply chain, you demand the orchestration and governance of ServiceNow.
And there's a brilliant strategic layer to this from Salesforce's perspective. Keyshawn Cheaton, their GM of Agentforce, points out something crucial in the text.
What's that?
Salesforce doesn't even need to beat ServiceNow at the very top of the Fortune 500 to win massive revenue. The total addressable market for IT service management is estimated at a staggering $50 billion.
It is a colossal pie, and ServiceNow only has about $13 billion of it right now.
Exactly. Salesforce can just target its existing massive customer base down market. They can carve out billions in revenue by offering a quote-unquote good enough, highly integrated ITSM solution to companies already using Slack.
Leaving ServiceNow to fight a painful two-front war.
Right.
ServiceNow has to defend its massive enterprise clients from Salesforce's top-down messaging, while simultaneously fighting off legacy competitors like BMC Helix and Atlassian for the middle of the market.
Which forces ServiceNow to constantly justify their complexity.
Exactly. It is not a zero-sum game for Salesforce, but it is a massive disruptive headache for ServiceNow's growth trajectory.
Which brings us full circle. We started today with a fiery corporate feud, a CEO gloating about 200 users, and a competitor firing back, calling him unhinged.
Gotta love the drama.
But diving into the actual technology reveals a profound debate about enterprise control. It's the battle of frictionless engagement versus governed orchestration.
Highlighting the incredibly heavy burden of letting autonomous AI run loose in the real world.
And that underlying tension isn't going away. The LLMs are only going to get faster, and the agents are only going to get more integrated into our daily workflows.
Absolutely.
So whether you are the CIO making a multi-million-dollar architectural decision or an employee simply trying to submit a password reset request without wanting to throw your laptop out a window, these invisible AI agents are about to fundamentally rewire your daily work life. The black box is officially open.
And to leave you with a final thought to mull over, we've spent this time discussing how Salesforce's agents handle front-end user engagement and how ServiceNow's agents manage back-end infrastructure orchestration.
Right.
But in large enterprises, technologies inevitably overlap. What happens in the very near future when a company decides to use both?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a scenario where a fast-moving Salesforce AI agent representing an employee's request has to negotiate, argue, and resolve a complex database ticket with a rigid, highly governed ServiceNow AI agent guarding the infrastructure.
Just two bots fighting it out.
We are looking at a future where two autonomous systems are hashing out company policy at the speed of light, completely removing humans from the loop entirely.
Your brilliant personal assistant arguing with a rigid bank teller in milliseconds while you just sit back and sip your coffee.
Exactly.
It is an absolutely wild future to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the invisible tech that powers your world, and we will catch you next time.